Hi guys, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. This is like the fourth time I've tried this. I'm having troubles with OBS tonight. I think I've narrowed it down. So apparently my capture box is acting up. Um, I can see this now. It's not frozen here at the menu anymore. So I restarted everything for my streaming portion on my game capture up on my normal rig, and then my streaming rig. I troubleshooted almost everything in the past like 10 minutes. And it all came down to my capture card. Something is seriously wrong with it. And there's some loose cabling on there, so I'm hoping that's all that this problem is. Um, no, it looks like it's working. So I'm just gonna continue on. Hopefully it works and it's just not something freaky. I'm just so we're gonna continue, and I'm hoping it works. That way I can kind of get on with this. If it doesn't, I apologize, guys. I'll try to fix it before our next game. I guess I'd be lying if I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there's definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bed and sitting on top of a futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting, watching, just in case someone tried to break through my window. If I left the spot, someone would break through the door, setting the futon flying and attacking me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried to I kept trying to tell myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the daily scared me to hell, basically. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It'd be better just to stay awake. At some point during the endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside my window. I guess that was it. It wasn't so much as the morning, but it was the sun simply had risen. I snuck a peek out the curtains. Miranda was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had a hard time, but I needed to my make my own breakfast, so I better get going soon. Skipping school is also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. So staying holed up in here was my probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes, just as I did every morning. So for those who are interested, my chair is fixed. I jury-rigged the hell out of it to work. Wow, that was weird. My flashlight on my cell phone just turned on by itself. I don't get that. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi. Calm down. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just gonna walk in and twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Taking note of the plates of any cars that drive by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were aiming to slay each other with a single motion of their as they drew their katanas, the karmic strike, in other words. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a surge of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's sorry, not belt. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I'll dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Reina or Mion, I needed to leave now. See, that's what bugs me. I got here earlier, but the stream froze because of my box problem. It seems to be working now. Good. Um, it bugs me that it just switched this and the door was already open. Maybe he opened it. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn out in the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but I never got around to it with a phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned up right now. And considering what would happen if I ran into into Reina or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got home. Making extra certain the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. Oh, by the way, for anybody who stuck around, thank you so much for sticking around, guys. I know the stream kept cutting in and out because of this whole issue with my capture card, but everything seems to be working now. So thank you so much for sticking around. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Reina arrived at school. Her eyes met, but we said nothing. Reina said nothing about last night, as if it never happened, but I could see those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Sadako and the others that the bandages were for hurting herself in the kitchen. Though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Aoshi shared about Reina's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Reina being as a cute ideal girl. Oh shit. Fuck you, Mion. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Shit. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactically keeping Mion from getting any closer. I think Mion got the message, but she urged me to give it a rest. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave me if something gave her the cold shoulder. If someone gave her the cold shoulder like this, but Mion just stood there waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school in plain view. I doubt she suddenly attacked me here, or was I too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heavy as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as I needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge this situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from the others, that's out of the question. Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to figure out the right way to say it. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. Uh-oh. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? Uh-oh. That's It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Oh shit. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Mion panicked and looked around. Give me 1 second, guys. Somebody's trying to talk to me on my freaking Facebook. I don't know why they know that I'm streaming right now. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? but I'm still unsettled knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could imagine Mion acting like this. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised how easy it was. Little prank. What the fuck? Mion gave me a wiry smile mixed with confusion, causing me a little more anger to well up inside me. I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. It wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed it and it lodged my throat, what do you think would have happened? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion I knew anymore. Mion wasn't replying anymore. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. As I left Mion still shaking, I turned around to head for the entrance. So what I'm thinking is going on is that they're actually not very aware of what's going on. Maybe Rina to an extent, but I think Mion they have some kind of weird problem here at the village where they're kind of they get possessed by something. I'm not sure, but they it could be some kind of like split personality with all three of these or all four of these girls. That's my only theory, and they're not too aware of it completely. Maybe Rena to a degree because it hits her hardest, but I'm not 100% sure exactly. I think you have to read all of the or watch all of the play all the games basically, and you probably get an idea what this problem is. Like it's possession or something. I thought there was gonna be more blood in this game. Anyway, I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself. She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself, but it was a sobbing voice that sounded kind of giddy, cursy tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. Oh boy, here we go. What the fuck? Ew. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at the top, at the spot at the ground. She glared at a spot on the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic possession or expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, it was different from Reina's. Retiring this year. Was she talking about Oishi-san? I felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I've experienced such a visage, whatever. That's French. Mion made an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Reina nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika looked me in the eye either. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just been back. I just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred in had almost been so much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like that to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rung sounding the end of the autonomous school day, which felt so tense yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join in the club activities, I promptly started to prepare to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's new familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath the recesses of my heart, ached achingly I knew. This would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or would it end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless of my current state, there is something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, and even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere, mixed in with all their shrieks, Tomitake-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying for the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasmingly weakly. B. There was still so much of the summer left, yet one of these already was chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying no matter how hard I listened, but I had to try. I had to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled together, fearing that the person who had brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I would never have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In this place, there was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long. But in this moment, I needed to be razor sharp. I needed to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly among the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. I could get them to pass by me. No, since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I've hidden myself and I was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Reina, like yesterday? If it was Reina, I wouldn't hold back. I should I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Reina, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ampled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell that the fear that I had been beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. Oh shit. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Reina. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone that I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Reina I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly, and in her right hand, oh shit, she has a hatchet. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball, swinging my swing, there was tons of excuses for me to be carrying around a bat. But for that hatchet, there was no excuse for that. A hatchet just like that. Oh shit, are you playing hide and go seek? My heart was pounding. Hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold onto was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken a hold. Not good, not good, not good. See, the thing is also that hatchet is an Asian hatchet. They make those in China and in Japan. They're actually very heavy. He actually has the advantage with a lighter bat, but what I I'm not too sure what the hell he's aiming at. If he's gonna, I would just take off and run. Really, if she chases you with that thing, then you have a pretty good chance for the law to step in there. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Knowing the Japanese prefecture, so there should be at least one police officer in this village. That's why I'm like. Anyway, if you notice that she had a hatchet, that's kind of suspicious for a high school girl on her way home from school. Anyway, I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there's still space between us, than allow Reina to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat once again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the trees. Reina was pleased that she found me exciting or eliciting. Oh, eliciting. I haven't heard that word in a while. Eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that she had been hiding. Those eyes. They were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Ah, not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, and cold substance began spreading around. Oh, his adrenaline's kicking in. If you, if I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Well, anxiety. Sorry. Not good. Not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose. I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit. What are you about holding them? Treasure hunting? Rena gave a flippant expression as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Reina's laugh was obviously very strange. You know, her laugh reminds me of those the hell are they called from Evil Dead? Um the demons from Evil Dead, the demon women. Kind of laugh. Reina's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Reina's transformation many times before, but the one today, was completely different. It's like her mischievous tone and shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that was roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious. Reina did not stop walking even as she let out the eerie laugh. Whenever Reina got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. The cycle repeated over and over again. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Reina and she was trying to escape. Yeah, she's pretty crazy. When I met with Reina on the road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Reina didn't show any hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Reina and me was the same, that's fine. I'll just change my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a street I've never been down before and I knew little about. But Reina saw me do that and followed while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home and down the street like you normally did. Why are you following me down this creepy little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. If she wasn't psychotic, she'd be a cute character. Reina's blood scream. Oh, Reina's scream echoed, sorry, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. There's something seriously wrong with this crazy bitch. While I was running down this unfamiliar and deserted street, you'd be jacked up if this was all one giant prank to test his sanity. But I don't think it is. Even though I was running, even though Reina was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away? She's laughing pretty loud. No one hears this. How many people live in this village? Only like 5 people? My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Reina wasn't even breaking a sweat. I had no idea what was she talking about or exactly what she wanted me to do. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Reina was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Where did the street connect to? All of these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe, but that this was even remotely in the direction of my house. My sense of direction had long gone out the window. The road led me deeper into the forest. Oh shit, he's going elsewhere. I wasn't getting farther away from the village or more the more I ran. I lost my I lost more and more of my composure as the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. Save them? What the hell's she gonna do to save them? Damn it. What does she mean? What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced my running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. Yeah, how much fun would that be? Randa couldn't even imagine how much I'd wished I could turn back the clock of these past few days. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end, I wouldn't let it. Not without knowing anything, not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. All of the things that could have happened, my knees buckling underneath me, and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Reina was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Reina was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense that if her heart was beating. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if she was staring at godliness for a thousand-armed Buddha. Then, as both of her arms met above her head, the hatchet she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. That was all I could do. Reina stayed like that, with the hatchet raised above her head and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I became frantic as the more I screamed, but Reina did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. There is no human perpetrator. Oh shit. She, everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. He exists, period. Reina's gaze grew even more gelid. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. Well, you're dead now because you just committed a frank offense against somebody who's a zealot for the guardian spirit of this village. All the noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded, loud and terribly. I couldn't understand what Rena was saying. I didn't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying? Okay, he starts laughing uncontrollably. I'm not gonna. Reina's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Or was Reina saying that Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about when I talked about Reina. Oishi-san began speaking. Oh, my leg fell asleep again. Everything okay with the stream? It looks like it. Oh, God. Beat some guy with a bat, a kid with a bat, and busted his eyes. They were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally there'd be criminal investigation, but why didn't they press charges? Rena hit people while she broke the windows? Oops. Or was that she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. 'There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rana and three male students were at the post storage shed talking. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At that time, she underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the three of them didn't comprehend what was happening. And she beat the shit out of them with a fucking baseball bat. Then, taking the battle back, she attacked her friends one after another. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their heads, she made her way towards the school building. She broke the glass windows one after another. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. I also could recall Reina's transformation. I've seen that change many times before. It was so different than the usual Reina that I couldn't help it but believe that it was someone else who looked like her. Kind and caring and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in schools like she is now. That girly um, trans, that girl transforming suddenly and assaulting people with a bat. Who would imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself believed that I had been mistaken for thinking that Reina, even now, it's cold in here now. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Ugh. So it's the school that covered that up.
その事件があったという事実以上のことは何もない。被害者たちのその事件が公になることを望んでいませんので、私とも会えば、私たち二人が忘れれば、そのまま闇に消えるでしょう。
Just realized you can't read it too much. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't realize that it was covering. I was covering the words. For a brief moment, we all sat in silence. At the first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with.
その後、学校検診で救急。そしてその間、診警会のカウンセリングを受けました。その医者から何か聞けたんですか？我々は卒業倫理のしっかりした尊敬すべき方としてね、今固いんですよ。警察手帳を見せてもダメなんですか？書面で示されただけで協力して、君には立てる。
Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembers is that she overheard from inside the room.
看護師さんが言うので、その時の優遇がとても淡々としていて、落ち着いていたそうです。
It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than counseling session. She spoke with her mother there at some point, but partway through, her mother just was asked to leave, so it became more of a private counseling session between the doctor and Reina for a while.
今日のお社の話はどこで出てきたんですか？途中です。その名前を突然叫んだ。それから看護師さんもびっくりして聞き耳を立てた。
Reina suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I have no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Reina to have a seat.
そのお社様というのは何ですか？
Gently, ever so gently, a fundamental part of counseling had to be good to be a good patient listener.
竜宮さんが今のお家に引っ越される前に住んでいた町ですね。
What the fuck?
竜宮さんはきっと木南沢にもお友達がたくさんいたんですよね。今でも懐かしいんじゃないですか？お社様というのはその木南沢の神様なんですね。竜宮さんが引っ越しをされたのはもう随分前ですよね。では、今になってその神様がやってきたという。
That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That's all she remembered.
お社様の。確かに、木南沢のそういう名詞に、打倒捨てで出ていくと、親代様の町が、この辺りは前原さんもすでにご存知ですよね。
I knew very well that those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then, following year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I heard of the curse incurring by leaving the village. I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people if they leave, were they? Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't do that. Sorry. Oishi pondered for a bit over the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again.
南大昔鬼ヶ淵と呼ばれていたという話をしました。
Onikakushi. I recall hearing that. Long ago, Mizawa was feared and respected as a village of demons.
麓の村人たちは鬼たちを恨むことでした。で、鬼ヶ淵は神聖な土地なので、絶対に不可視だ。むやみに立ち入ると、お社様のたたりになるとされてきたのです。
Those who set foot on Onigafuchi, in other words, Hima Mizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that.
それはわかります。でも、出ていくのまでダメってのは。
鬼たちのまたですね。俗世に出ていかないよう、お社様に厳しく見張られていたのです。つまり、お社様っていうのは、俗世と鬼ヶ淵の交流を禁じていたんです。ああ、
I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was.
つまり、お社様ってのは、守り神ってよりも、監視者なんですね。この地を外界から隔離しようとする。
そんな感じになるんでしょうな。すみません。私も詳しくないんです。この辺りは、ばあ様の受け売りでして。
I could understand a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hima Mizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So because Reina originally lived in Hima Mizawa and moved far away, she fulfilled the requirements for being
つ
cursed.
まり、レナは望まない引っ越しをしたため、お社様のたたりにあったと、そう話しているわけですが。
要約すると、そういう意味なんでしょうな。実際、この後しばらくして、ひなみ沢に引っ越していった。
Those who abandoned Hima Mizawa and left were cursed. But then why only Reina? Shouldn't Reina's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them is cursed, then it would be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there would be only one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of the Wataganashi. I don't want to say it at most, though.
まあ、とにかく、わからないことだらけなんです。お社様のたたりがどうだったにせよ、クラスメートを金属バットで殴った理由にはなりませんし、被害者が訴えない理由にもなりません。前原さんには恐ろしいたたりが起こったら、被害者たちが含み上がったら、なんてこと信じるわけないですよね。
I wonder. Of course, I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Reina made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Reina as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed so much to the doctor. And the weapon which she had used at the time was of that horrendous act was again a metal bat. And finally me. I've encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding onto a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be had the same thing happen to Reina, but there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Reina was still here. Both of them had been victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Reina, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I was really under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Reina was fine. Fine. Reina had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that wasn't Reina reciting inside her. Here right now is standing before me.
プレイ、教えてくれ。俺はどうなんだよ。
Reina stood imposing, not answering.
サトシは消えた。だけどレナは消えなかった。じゃあ俺はどうなるんだよ。
I never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Rana took one step forward, still holding the hatchet high above her head. One step closer, Rana's face spread out to fill my vision. One step closer. Rana's nose was close enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer. I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away as I can from Reina. I had a gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end, because when that laughter ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast that I couldn't even believe it and pushed Reina away with both hands. Reina was light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the hatchet, she was sent backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed down at full speed. It was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig, getting away from Reina, run away, survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I was holding onto the bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for my breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I couldn't hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Reina coming from after me. It rang through the trees and in my head, and I slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The groove of the trees thinned out, and my field of vision suddenly expanded. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered at the scenery. I felt I knew nothing, but I couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized that I was at the dam site. The fact that I've dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there's no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles of my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. I stopped here, then if I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back looking for an excuse to rest. Reina wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking about. I breathed a sigh of relief that wasn't Reina but a third party, except the voice inside me rang alarm as well. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in all themselves, but it was bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were out for a walk. But at the same time, two adults walking around without a purpose. It was enough to raise questions. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and finally started imagining things? Should I run away? That was probably my best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. But if they were part of some group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Rena would catch up with me. That's right, I was going to run. Deciding that the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed toward me, as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had to jump to the conclusion that Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need anything else. But right now, I realized how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Oishi-san told me about demons all leaving the village to hunt their prey floated in the back of my mind. I could tell that they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frantic footsteps. It was frightening being unable to shake Reina off as she slowly closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuers' arms grazed my shoulder. Now it was just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. I No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't possibly win against the legs of an adult. In less time than it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving, and they'll be right on top of me. On top of me, and then don't even think about it, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the if the fact that you can't get away with this is given, they need to make a decision. Go with the right leg or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into oh whatever. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using the inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. The two of them were completely startled, momentarily losing sight of me. Both of them of their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applauded for being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot where I should have been and faced I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing the bat. All I needed to do was extend my arm as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed enough to with enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But I was just knocking him down was not enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Reina. Just not recognizing their faces, not knowing them, it made it easier. Smiling rarely on the inside. It's fine if it was just a bluff. But barking at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievable calm expressions on their faces. One of them could grab onto the bat, and the other would hold me down. Just what was their plan? Taking them both on at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I'd just have to settle with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way an unarmed person would guard against it. It would be cause for immense damage. If they blocked with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back on it, it would be possible that the blow would travel all the way down to their vital organs. It it looked like he was aware of this. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good with this distance in this position. In this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all, but the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upward, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have time to relish in the experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all more upsetting. After plowing my stomach full force again, my assailant twisted around my back and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my head. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake his arm off me, I couldn't run, I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with the phrase that adequately described my situation. Oh, he's done. guess they took me somewhere. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the beds and pillows, I knew them well. This was my room. Normally, there wouldn't be anyone in the room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, a pain shot through my entire body. Why was Reina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries, but Reina's smile belonged to the Reina I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let her feel this way, but I relaxed, thinking that this version of Reina was safe.
俺はどうして意識がなくなってからのことは全然
My body had become more lethargic than I could ever imagined. I guess that would be expected, the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least, I tried at least to clear my head, but I couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind.
一応それまで横になってた方がいいと思うな。
I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring.
俺どうしてここにいるんだ確かダム現場で
それはレナが聞いたんだ。何があったのかな。レナが行った時には圭一君倒れてて。
だから聞きたいのは俺の方だよ変な二人組に襲われて
As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went up along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Reina to be nursing me. I thought Reina was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health.
よく俺を引きずってここまで来れたな重かったのに
Looking at Reina's delicate frame, it's hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back to health, but even dragged me all the way up here to the second story. Did she had some help? Reina appeared very surprised, but kept her smile.
大丈夫。自分で歩けるって圭一君が。覚えてない？
I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness.
二人組はどうしたレナが来た時俺と一緒にあるいはそばに二人組の男が
いなかったの？
She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. It was too I was too timid at that time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Reina. But if I did that, then this kind Reina might transform into the scary Reina who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Reina would even stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Reina was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt as if I was hallucinating when I saw something akin to a shadow creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Reina was still Reina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep.
トイレに来たんだけど
ごめん。
Reina couldn't say anything else. While Reina stayed in my room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang ding-dong. It must have been the doctor Reina had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in their doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the inconsiderable time that it would take Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it almost instantly. Oh no.
あれ？元気そうだね。倒れてたって言うから様子見に来たんだけど。
なんで俺が倒れてたと知ってるんだよ
レナが電話してきた。他に理由が必要？
I understood why she would call a doctor, but why Mion too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me.
レナ、ケンちゃん大丈夫そうだった？さあ、心配してどうしたの？
They both began laughing. It appeared to be a cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them.
うわ、何この下駄箱。どうしてたの？
The shoe rack that had smashed to pieces like it had been like that since yesterday.
転んでさ、その拍子に持ってたバットで叩いちゃったんだよ。
持ち慣れないもん振り回してるからこういうことになるんだよ。
I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself.
でもこれじゃおばたまたちが帰ってきてびっくりしちゃうよね。さて、レナが助けておくね。さあ、ケイちゃん、重病人なんだからちゃんと寝てないとダメだよ。
Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to tell Oishi, or call Oishi. Someone tells me he's already dead anyway. I think probably Mion took him out. After all, she wanted to kill him. I was pushed into my bed. As if it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. He fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked about, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion had said something as though it was perfectly normal. Oh shit. Director. That out of place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called the doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a director? Who is this director? Since Reina and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd.
二人とも何の話をしてるんだよ。監督ってなんだよ。
What the hell? I dug through all my memories for a director who might have had business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Reina had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident, the dismemberment at the time of at the dam site, the foreman. But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There's no way they could call him.
お前らが何の話をしてるのかわからないよ。その監督が俺と何か関係あるのか？来るって言ったけど、うちに来るのか？
I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a big difference between how they appeared and how my suspicions were played out. Slowly, I began to feel discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about.
ケイちゃん、さっきの話残ってるよね。監督、それ聞いたら喜ぶと思うな。
だから監督って誰だよ。だから監督って誰だよ。
Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed heartily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh was long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly.
そうだ、監督が来るまで待つとかな。ケイちゃん、覚えてるかい？
Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story.
覚えてるって何をだよ。
罰ゲームなの？罰ゲームなの？忘れちゃったのかな？おはぎに聞いた。どれがレナが作ったおはぎかを当てる宿題。あれ、確か宿題忘れだったよね。
I certainly didn't have that homework. I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle. So I wasn't able to answer the question which one Reina made. The penalty for that, why now? Oh, she's... No doubt my question was written all over my face. The answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane, strange, incomprehensible. Being chased down by Reina, attacked by strange men, the penalty Mion and Reina were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take long for me to realize I'd been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Rena had gotten behind me at some point. She was... Why was she pinning my arms behind my back?
罰ゲーム。
My body was already sluggish and Rena pinned my arms, so it was much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized that this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for Rena that I knew. Then, then, then these thin, frail arms grasped me firmly. Whose arms were they?
成功しちゃダメだよ。最速第何条だね。罰ゲームに成功しちゃダメなの。
Mion, no. That thing that looked like Mion spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be a Mion. Mion fish into her pockets, pulls out something bizarre. I could tell. I could tell that it was just. I could tell what it was just by looking. But for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it.
なんだよ。それ。
It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, the kind a doctor might use if you went to them with a high fever. Reina held me even tighter, and I can hear the chattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter. It was something that Reina could never produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Reina, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. That needle, that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times.
大丈夫大丈夫。痛くないから。
何をする気だよ。これは一体何の真似だよ。
ゆうちゃん、何言ってんだか。分かってんでしょ。
何が。俺には何が何やさっぱりわからねえよ。
知ってるくせに。今さらかまととぶられてもな。
わけのわからないことを言って俺を煙に巻くのはやめろ。
富武さんと同じ目にあっても。
You're gonna have done what happened to Toмотake-san. Oh, okay. So, the same as Tomitake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have anything to do? What did that have to do with the syringe?
とぼけてるのね。
He was drugged, but they couldn't figure out what the drug was, I believe.
うすうすは気づいてたくせに。
Raina whispered in my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake-san?
みんなはじめは不人間ですが、意識を
I'm sorry, guys, I accidentally did that.
近づいた警官はすぐに異常に気づきました。喉がね、引き裂かれていたのですよ。
ナイフとか
いい爪でした。
Nails. Nails as in fingernails? With those gorged through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen,
薬物を疑いましたが、そういう類のものは検出できませんでした。
that's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's system. No known drugs. They didn't know what they were looking for.
警察は富武さんの遺体から薬物は検出できなかったって言ったぞ。
Giwahahaha. The two of them laughed together in that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was complete foolish. Meaning the drug that causes his death in such a bizarre manner did exist. If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would mean basically I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my throat in my last moments, then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I didn't feel like there was any need to whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball straight for his face, has time to think of a reason why it's flying at them? Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she was brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand, grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I just stand up too fast? Or did someone really hit me hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. Did she just poke me with that shit? I guess that's it. Right? I'm dead? That's some weird shit, man. I squatted down for a bit, then when I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. What exactly happened? The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long have I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or had it been hours? It was almost as if the hands of the clock had stopped moving for the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how much little time had passed. Really? The air in my room wasn't filled with the madness from before, only a dull silence. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there to eject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There's no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had. I was certainly with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was just a hallucination. Neither Reina or Mion, they would never do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her deep red. Oh shit, killed her. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. That same Reina had slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat. I finally noticed the weight in my hand. How long had it been here? It was Satoshi's bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. It was the only I was the only person in the house. Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. Oh shit. That's right. Of course I did it. I told myself gently as if coaxing myself. Hey me, there's no reason for you to remember it, nor there is a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? So much blood. Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do and throw back your head and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted over and over in my head and relaxed. So Keiichi killed them. Ooh. Color came back to my vision and its smells it reinfused the air. At the same time I remember what happened when I blacked out. Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Reina as she pinned my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. She tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that had been left carelessly by the side of my desk. Beep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in my videotape of a mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there wasn't anything recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look and turned off the TV. What the fuck? Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean that the videotape with me hadn't recorded it. So basically, he's explaining that he blacked out and pretty much killed them. He beat them with the bat until they're dead. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes, it was still difficult to take in. There was blood splattering everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses, not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been done for. Balancing that out in an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all there. The two of them collapsed there and Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the problem. The mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And from the fact that both of these were two were involved, they'd probably pick out the criminals one after another. Still, I might be a suspect for all this, but that was just fine. Anyway, this should be a police affair. This would fade into the darkness like Reina's past instances. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish. of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The doctor Reina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I need to contact Oishi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a director had called, or had been called. It was easy to imagine that there were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I had just done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I've heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there's more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They had much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those two might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white lab coat, but he didn't look like the director at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door, pretend to be the doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would rush at me all at once. At that moment, I saw a car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van. No mistaking it. That van, the one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably could pretend I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they would just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use the public phone to contact Oishi. Then meet up somewhere. Of all, I needed a weapon. Then shoes. Before that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'll live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Yashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why there was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hiding in it. Damn it. The tape was sticking to it fast. It would be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If it wasn't if I wasn't able to inform Oishi-sama-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I need to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'll leave all this information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the director. To begin with, the term director didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the directors from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder, the very first victim of the chain of events. Killed and lynching, his body was divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death, but Reina and Mion both called him director. They said director. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who's dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I don't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi. That's right. They needed to start fresh with this first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths would follow. So there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should be established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I need to write. Tomitake-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just having this, everything could be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue laying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe into the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it absolutely would not slip out onto the floor firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore, but even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it became like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote in this note. If you are reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Although you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded this note, stuck it back onto the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray, Oishi-san, if something happened to me, I'll leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed silently at Reina and Mion. This is probably the last time I'd ever see each other. Reina, Mion.
みんなのこと本当に友達だと思ってたんだぜ。
Why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I'd hoped to get into was really what I wanted to go or a safety net. That's all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also rivals in studying in competitions in personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun, making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them, but they wouldn't stop, even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month I would not forget. Or could it be those happy days were all facaded well? It was all a trap, meticulously orchestrated until today, to ensnare me. Could it have been that I had been assumed that they were my friends? That that couldn't have been the case. Both Reina and Mion they really were my friends. Those happy days there were nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me, or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Mion and Reina, they were the best friends ever, and they were coming after me. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition, but they were the kind of people to shell out. They weren't the kind of people to shell out their friends, no matter what means they were employed to force them. There was no way such a bad thing of being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having been beaten down by both Rena and Mion, I was still debating whether they were the real or fakes. There are no real or fakes, only the reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change the reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. I felt as if there was a crack in my dam of strange emotions I was trying to hold back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had recorded and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far to keep living, so I can't die. For my sake and the sake of the late Rena and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me. Behind this single solitary door, they were here. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen, headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put my shoes, I opened the door slowly, not to make a sound. There he is, the back door. A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi. At one after another, I felt stuff like rational intelligence, those things used when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forearms. My autonomously pulsing heart felt neither fatigue or pain. My entire being was just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever. So of course it wouldn't feel I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. I just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if no one was chasing me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind where I was heading. Turned around, I felt a presence right next to me. The presence was without doubt chasing me like my shadow. If if I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran. I ran at full speed. Kwakakaka. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Quack, quack, quack. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirps became. I couldn't get near them. Why were you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt only the Higurashi knew. Higurashi, whatever. The smoke, the smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down the corridor where the sun doesn't even reach? I recall hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about a tenth of the municipality's revenue. We had the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect.
どうしてこれがウーマン切りなんすか？街が狭くなっちゃうんすか？
One of the younger detectives I was having a staring contest with the mahjong magazine called Next Turn.
ウーマン切ってもテンパイ崩れませんから、海底にかけるなら両面で受けた方がチャンスあるんじゃないですか？
熊井ちゃん、川を見てた。ウーマンは全員切ってますから、安牌なんですよ。中盤で K 点に走った誰かがダマで待ってたんだでしょ。
The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, then took out another one.
納得いかないっすね。わざわざ自分で当たり前減らすなんて。
ちなみに、海底で当たり牌して分しちゃダメですよ。
え、どうしてですか？
Just then, I heard a voice coming down from the
こ
hall.
いつさ、いますか？一般の方から凱旋です。
はい、こりゃどうぞ。それじゃ、ちょいと失礼。
どうしてロンしちゃダメなんすか？待ってくださいよ。大石さん。
The man sitting on the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver.
報酬から。
ああ、どうもすいません。お待たせ
From the tone in Maibara's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This is the first time he had phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone.
落ち着いてください。何？
His voice was erratic all over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that no one else could hear, I prompt him in a hushed tone.
何があったんです？
Well,
落ち着いて、前原さん。今そこに近場の警官を落とせます。私もすぐそっちに行きますよ。
his voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people, even as he was making this call, was he?
前原さんが今、公衆電話からかけています。どこの公衆電話？
There was no other sounds other than besides Maibara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hima Mizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines.
落ち着いて、前原さん。今、どういう状況なんです？
It was best practice to avoid flustering someone panicking, but this was an urgent case. Maibara didn't just get in trouble, carried away, and then called me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Maibara right now would just needless call him to be more frantic. He wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell someone something more important than that. And whatever it was, if I didn't get it from this call, I certainly would never have had another chance. A colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one phone booth in Himanozawa. Patrol car is on its way. 5 minutes.
かかりすぎです。警らには何人乗ってます？
2人です。
Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there are likely quite a few people surrounding him. 5 minutes was too long.
政治巡回の時間です。家人はですね、連絡不能。
Oh shit.
さあ、じゃあ、車を回してください。
了解っす。
Oh god, I think he's been gutted.
もしもし、大丈夫です。ちゃんと聞こえてますよ。
There's something wrong with him. That wasn't normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? He had already been attacked? Was he injured?
前原さん、今そこに警官が向かってます。2、3分で到着しますから、なんとか持ちこたえてください。もしもし、聞こえてますか？前原さん。
I could hear on the other side of the line he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped in my head.
前原さん、犯人は誰？何人なんです？
I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting.
大丈夫ですか？前原さん。
It was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. No, he's here.
前原さん、どうか、どうか落ち着いて。
Fuck. What the fuck is wrong here?
前原さん、そいつは今ひょっとして前原さんの後ろに。お願いです、前原さん。怖いのはわかります。ですが、お願いです。あなたの後ろに誰がいるんです？ 怖いのはわかります。でも教えてほしい。ちょっと振り返るだけでいいんです。前原さんの後ろに誰
Right after I said that, I can hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound.
あんたまさか喉を引っかいてたりしないでしょ
There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang as if someone was being hit. My Barakun had probably dropped the receiver. I can hear groaning and vomiting on this end and a repeating abnormal noise.
もしもしもしもし
I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering coming from the other side. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there?
もしもし前が
Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over again. I focused my senses trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep. Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind.
おいさん、車を置けっつ。おいさん。
ごめんなさい
おいさん。
That was what he was repeating over and over again. He said, "I'm sorry." I had a gut feeling there was no need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Key, 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 key. I should have been able to hear him this entire time. I just wasn't paying attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Key, 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 key. Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. So Maibara died, as far as we can tell. Keiichi's gone. June 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving two female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara, age probably 16 or something. The suspect called over his two female classmates. Oh shit! So this is the way it's been formed out by the police. Reina Yurigu Mian Sonosaki to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the second floor of this house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood. There were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the crime scene, the entryway, living room, and kitchen had all traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There was a possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It's hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle of the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the ground. Garbage was thrown about in the surrounding area, and the handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had, for some reason, taken out the garbage and struck it with his fist. The reason for this remains unknown. Keiichi did that when he was looking for the needle, right? In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but no needle was discovered. Though the garage door was functional and it had been left open since the suspect moved in, the garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious and in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but not regained consciousness and died 24 hours later. The result of the autopsy indicated the immediate cause of death had been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With a similarity to the death of Tomitake-san in the prior week, the police began to think there was a connection and and it may have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all of this remains inexplicable. Such, this case is being treated as an act of committed on impulse. So it's a crime of passion. Hmm. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it's possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, unpredictable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior, as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he had been saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was discovered in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of paper from a B5 college rulebook that had each been torn in half. Wait, is that right? He didn't tear it in half, did he? As if trying to conceal it. It was stuck behind the clock of the wall. The contents were written in the appendix. The police believed it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt upon the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulse or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case had been labeled as unresolved. They didn't talk about the needle. That means they did find the note, and it was torn in half. So I'm thinking that they messed with his evidence. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written in two halves of B5 paper from two separate sheets, but originally a sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines in the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It was highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question are not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that there was something other than the note stuck there had arisen. The person who had first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have been connected with the incident, Kurado Oishi. He went voluntary questioning but denies involvement in any damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Mabara, fear for my life. Do not know why they're after my life. The only thing I know is that it has to do with Yashiro-sama's curse. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is on the first sheet. And the section below is what have been ripped out. This is from the second sheet, the section above that has been ripped out. I have no idea why it became like this. If you are reading this, I'm probably already dead, though you may or may not find my body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. It is my only desire. Keiichi. What was it that he was missing? Damn it, I forgot. So something, he removed the part that had to do with the director? A new scenario has been unlocked. An all-cast review session has become available. To play it, press extra on the title menu and then pick all-cast review session. What the hell is that? That was it, guys. So that was the end of Higurashi When They Cry, the first chapter. The second chapter is, I think the others are probably different because that really just kind of, I don't know. I wonder what the others are about because the fact is, you really can't go anywhere from that. Keiichi's dead. Maybe it's somebody else that's involved, or maybe it's just from a different perspective. They might be going another type of route in anime where they do what ifs, like the other routes of visual novels. or other things like that. So I don't know, but we will figure it out. I'm gonna play a different game for a while and another game after that, and I'll go back to this eventually. Um, I'll just play this whenever I feel bored and don't don't have anything else to play. This will be kind of like a filler thing. Um, we are gonna check out this extra probably soon. I don't know how long it is though. That's the thing. What is this? All cast review session. Let me take a look at it real fast and see what it is via. Let me look at the what people say it is. That way, we'll see if it's necessary or not. So yeah, the game itself was pretty good. It's a very slow burn game. Um, I'm assuming it's some kind of well, I looked at I googled it and it's 20 minutes long apparently, according to YouTube. I didn't watch it, but we're gonna just jump into it and finish this off. That way we don't have to come back and look at it later. 'This is the first story that readers challenging the mystery of the entire series. It's a prologue, a fucking 11-hour prologue. Holy shit! That was more like 12 hours. They say the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. What does that even mean? He's already dead! Unless it's some kind of prequel. I don't know.
でもどうなるのか楽しみでございますわ。
いやいやいやいや、遅れてすみませんね。
やあみんな、お疲れ様。
あれあれふーちゃんは
ケイチ君はもう次のシナリオの台本読みに行っちゃってるんだよ。
What? He's dead. How the hell is he reading the script? Or they said it was more. It dives into the history of the village, but
主人公のあれ
あれ残念ですね。ちょっとだけでも顔を出してくれればよかったのに。きっと喋るワード数が多すぎて居残りなのでしょう。
it's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he can't poke his head in if he wanted to.
前原さんのセリフだけで普通のアドベンチャーゲームの援軍の量が
That's breaking the fifth wall, Rika, or fourth wall, whatever.
しかし、ケイチ君やレナちゃんなんか特にだけど、大変なお話だったね。
大変なバッドエンドでございますわ。結局、圭一君を襲ったのって正体は何なんだろう。
たたりに見せかけておいて、実は人間の仕業ってのが僕の推理なんだね。
でも圭一は最後に謎の電話
といろいろ不可解なことが多いのです。
例えばどんな？小石刑事さんの推理聞かせてください。
まず人間が犯人だとすると、絶対に動機が必要なんです。こういうことをして誰が得をするのかってことなんです。
つまりおじさま、人間が犯人なら連続開始事件を起こすことによって誰かが得をしなくちゃいけないってこと？
そういうことです。ダム開発の関係者が死ぬうちは利害も感じられましたが、近年の犠牲者はそれとも無論です。第一、前原さんを殺して誰が得をするというのです。
なるほど。そう言われると僕も弱いな。
だってお金とかも取られてもいないんですもん。人間が犯人じゃありませんわ。でもそうとばかりは限らないんですか？さっき兄ちゃんが言ったように何かの昔語りの再現そのものに意味があるんだとしたら。そういうこと。これは営利殺人じゃないんだよ。きっとこれは村の綴られた歴史を再現するための何らかの儀式的殺人じゃないかなって思うわけ。では聞きますですが、これを再現すると誰か得をするのですか？
得をするんじゃなくて、もっと心理的なもの。僕は何かの復讐じゃないかと思う。土着的な何か。今回のシナリオでは語られなかった人間だよ。
なるほど。過去にひどい扱いを受けた暴家の人たちが先祖の恨みを晴らすために。ってな感じ。私はそれにも反対です。
じゃあ何？小石さんはまさかたたり派なわけ？
It's all speculation.
そうですかそうですか。現実的にそう？たたりに決まってますわ。
劇中で前原さんが言うように、お社様が龍宮さんや園崎さんに乗り移って悪さをしているって考えると、一番つじつまが合うんです。残念ながら。
実はレナも小石さんと同じ意見なの。あんなに優しかったレナや兄ちゃん気がおかしくなるなんて、そうじゃなきゃ説明つかないもの。そこはミオンの私が言うのも変だけど、やっぱり私なんだと思う。ミーの話の意味が分かりにくいのですよ。説明が欲しいのです。
Ow, that
あ
hurt.
あ、ごめん。つまりさ、これってすっごく残酷な話なんじゃないかって思う。あ、何兄ちゃん。それってひょっとして。
突き詰めるとそうなるのかな。僕もちょっとわかる。
つまり龍宮さんも園崎さんも、実は本当にああいう性格で、引っ越してきたばかりの前原さんを騙している東なんじゃないかって、こういうわけですから。
これを全部たたりにしようとしてるのよ。レナさん、ミオさん、みんなだっていい人なんですから。レナもそうだよ。レナの兄ちゃんって本当にいい人なんだって思う。そう劇中で出てきた厳しい人が何かに取りつかれてたんだって。レナもたたり派か。じゃあたたり派の皆さんにお聞きしますけどさ、たたりが起こるからにはそれなりの理由があるの。無差別にたたるとは思うんだよな。そこそこ説明できる？たたりたたりですから。人間と当然想像もつきませんわ。
They're actually saying, oh, divine
あと
inner
はじゃあ、
punishment
暗
actually
殺
rather
され
than
たレナ
cursing.
さんという存在は、結局は人間の生み出したものなんだ。だからその考え方も人間に理解できるようになる。
So they're gonna talk more in depth about this whole situation.
現時点ではこれ以上の推理は難しいね。
白黒つけないと納得できないな。イオンさんもこだわりますもんね。限られた状況で最大限の推理をする。すっきり部活感覚で面白いでしょ。
じゃあ整理してみましょう。
We'll be back in a second, guys.
私は語り派です。富武さんは
事件に限ってはやっぱり
人間派が2人出ましたね。リグさんは語る派でしたよね。
当たり前ですよ。でなと悪魔みたいにした方がよっぽどたたり合うべきですわ。それはまあ、私も自分のキャラが悪魔みたいな人だとは思い出しないけどな。部活モードもなくクールでもどうか大好きですね。
あのね、面白い意見だ。
リカちゃんはお社様じゃないので、やっぱ犯人は人間って思うわけ？そういうことにしますって。
ありゃまあ、今日がざっくり分かれましたね。語り派と人間派で半々です。
Okay, I have to read this. I guess there's no voicing for this part.
さあ、これじゃ意見はまあまあ。決着がつかなくて面白くないよね。
裁判官が奇数なのはつまりそういうことだからね。あと一人意見が欲しいな。
あ、ならちょうどいいかな。ケイス君本人に聞いてみない？電話で。当たり殺された本人の意見は貴重ですよ。そうと決まれば早速電話ですわ。もしもし、ケイス君、レナです。今お仕事お忙しいですか？
忙しいぞ。シナリオが1本終わって一休みって思ってたらすぐに次のシナリオだもんな。
ケイちゃんどんな感じ？忙しい？うん。拗ねてる。
燃えてるぞこら。お前ら打ち上げた日はなかった。
収録の残りゼリフ数で僕たちの誰か一人でも抜いたらもう一度参加できるのですよ。てか、あの量でそれは作んなかった？あ、それで、ごめんねケイチ君。今回のシナリオでね、
Both.
村の怪しげな奴らに狙われて、さらにおやつの様とかいう怪しいのにさられて、人間もただに全部
Who is just picking on me?
結局意見が分かれちゃったね。
私ももう見落としがあるかもしれません。
Really?
それでは引き続き日暮
Oh.
らしの夏空の巣
What the heck? Ah, these are all the tips. Anyway, that being said, I'm gonna quit for tonight. I will be playing these games periodically, but not too often. They're pretty damn long, that's why. Um, overall, it was decent. I mean, it's a typical visual novel. So there, except this one had no choices whatsoever. It's kind of like just a linear line throughout there. It's just like reading a book. Not a choose your own adventure book or anything. But yeah, I will be coming back to these games periodically. I will be playing another game in a little bit. It's probably going to be something older. I'm not 100% sure what yet. I'll be back probably on Monday night, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If maybe I might come back Sunday, but I don't think so. Probably Monday. It all depends on how that shot goes. If I take that shot and I'm sick, I probably won't be here. So keep that in mind. If you guys are reading this, I'll leave a note on my on Twitch's panels if I just can't stream because I'm sick or anything. Um, but you'll know by Monday afternoon if I didn't pull if I start having side effects or something from the shot. Anyway, so I'll see you guys next time. You guys take care. If you like what you saw, remember to follow or subscribe. Um, and I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace out for now.